How do you plan for your next day? In detail? Not at all. I found a kind of a middle way there, and that works pretty well for me, and today I would like to tell you how that works. Welcome to the Soft Skill channel. My name is Sebastian Jung, and today I would like to tell you about the method I use to plan for my next day. But first of all, I would like to wish a happy new year to everybody who watches this video after the initial release, which is on New Year's Day. And some of you probably have some New Year's resolutions, and we all know those are rather difficult to keep. So today I would like to talk about a topic that might be a bit helpful there, which is the method I use for day-to-day planning. The method is quite simple. In the evening before going to sleep, I sit down for a moment, I think of two things and I write them down. The first thing is something that I wish to do the next day, something pleasurable, enjoyable, something fun. Let's call it an enjoyment. The other thing is a piece of work I would like to get done the next day. Some important task. Yeah, let's call it a task. And the next day I try to put both into action, and usually this works rather well for me. Now you might wonder why I plan for an enjoyment. It's not like we'd forget to have fun and enjoy our lives, isn't it? However, what might happen is that in times where you have a lot of work, where you are in a hectic rush and there is a lot of stress, that, enjoyment and relaxation may be pushed aside by all the work you need to do and all the stress you have. You might say, oh, I had so much work, I didn't make it to that relaxation thing I had planned today, but maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe next month, and this is quite dangerous. I talked about that in my videos about stress. So consciously planning for some enjoyment for every single day is quite helpful here and avoids those problems. Another phenomenon that is avoided by this method is moving your own goalposts. This is something some of you probably know. It works like this. I've done some grocery shopping, I've written the script for the next video, I vacuumed all the rooms, I started doing my tax declaration, but I didn't finish my tax declaration. Damn, I didn't finish my tax declaration. What a useless, unproductive day this was. And planning for this single task is helpful here. For me personally, my day was successful if I finished this single task, and everything I do in addition to that is a bonus. And it's also helpful that this method requires very little effort, because some of you might have had the experience that you started doing a very complex and very detailed planning with a lot of lists and boards with notes on them and apps synchronized throughout all your mobile devices, and lots of details, lots of steps and everything. And what probably happened is, once there was a time where you had a lot of work and a lot of stress, you stopped doing it because you didn't have the time. So in the end, you had a method of planning that didn't work when you needed it most, and that merely worked at times that were relaxed anyway and where you didn't need it badly. And this is of course not ideal. So a method that is simple and takes little effort certainly has advantages here. Of course, my method also has disadvantages and shortcomings and limitations. For starters, it isn't sufficient to just do this day-to-day planning. In addition to that, you need some type of planning that covers the long-range perspective, where you plan further into the future than just for the next day. Especially because, as we learned from Stephen Covey and his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, when setting priorities, it is very important to protect those activities that are important but not urgent, against being pushed away by those activities that are urgent and important. Because the activities that are important but not urgent are those that are really important and valuable in the long run. Those include things like relaxation and recreation, which helps to maintain your health. Spending time in your relationship, spending time with your spouse, which is important to maintain a happy relationship or a happy marriage. Learning and investing time in personal development, which helps your personal growth and further development. And for those, you need to consciously make time, while those tasks that are urgent and important, they push themselves into your attention. Those aren't overlooked because those are the current crisis and the pressing problems of the day. Now, obviously, if you just plan from day to day in this way, and you pick one task each day from the pool of all the things you need to do, there is a high risk that you will always choose the urgent, important tasks, and that you will neglect the ones that are important but not urgent. So, as I said, you need some long-range perspective planning in addition to this simple method. Furthermore, it probably isn't ideal for your workday. It is better suited for your personal life, because at work you would probably end up sitting at your desk saying, well, I finished my task, I wonder what to do with the remaining 7 hours. However, even at work, it might be useful to consciously ask yourself, of all the things I need to do tomorrow, which one is the most important task, the one I really want to finish tomorrow because it is most important to me personally. And it might also be a good idea to consciously ask yourself where you have fun and enjoyment in your next day. Maybe tasks you really like to do, or times where you work with people you really like. And if there is very little, maybe you can consciously introduce a bit of enjoyment into your working day, and be it just that you go to your favorite restaurant in your lunch break, or that you visit the nice colleague you didn't talk to a lot lately. This can be quite valuable. However, at work you will need a more complex planning, especially if your job includes a lot of different tasks that you need to manage and that you need to keep track of. Then you need a systematic task tracking, and we will talk about that in future videos. If you would like to give my method a try, I have some remarks and recommendations for you. For the enjoyment, choose something that you really like to do, that you are looking forward to, and something that is realistic for the next day. Now there might of course always be bad luck, such as when you planned to go outside for some activity and then it is raining all day and you can't do that. This might always happen. However, what you shouldn't do is plan for something that requires at least half a day, even though you already know you will probably only have 1 or 2 hours of free time in the evening. If you do something like that, it will just introduce disappointment and frustration, and this is a very wrong direction here. So select something that is realistic for that day and make sure to reserve the time for it. For your task, it is important that it is neither too small nor too big. It should be something where you have a feeling of success when you finish it, but it should be something that you can really finish the next day. If you have a very large task, you can split it up into several subtasks. Or you can phrase your task as something like, I will start working on the very big task, or I will work on the very big task for at least an hour or something like that. It might be helpful to phrase your task as a SMART goal. SMART means it is specific, measurable, attractive, realistic, and terminated. And we will talk about SMART goals in more detail in a future video. Finally, you should write your enjoyment and your task down as is done for all types of planning, because having it written down is more binding than just having the intention in your mind, and it is a first step to realizing those things. I wanted to present this little method of mine to you, even though, because it is so simple, almost primitive. Because a method doesn't need to be complex and complicated for it to work and to be helpful. And it also doesn't need to come from some book or from some expert. What you think up yourself is perfectly fine and might work just as well for you and be just as helpful. How do you plan for your next day? Let me know in the comments. Maybe this is also interesting for other viewers. And if you give my method a try, I would be glad to know if it worked well for you. If you enjoyed my video, I would be very happy to receive a like from you. And if you don't want to miss any future videos, please subscribe to the channel. I'd be even more happy about that. We will see each other next week, where we talk about the Vicious Circles by Schulz von Thun. For today I'll take my leave. All the best wishes for the new year. See you next time.